like you got these TV
Yeah.
timeouts going on and everything like that. By the way, how does that feel, like being able to see like the TV broadcasts of your, and like people saying enhance it with the save and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, it's fun for me to be able to hear that. It gives me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
So let's play this here. So this is in this, I think, 7 minutes left to go in the game. This is the Muskegon Risers versus the Rochester Lancers. Is that right? That's
Yep.
those are the teams
Yes.
here. Uh, so the ball is played to Vadim Koyakov, who dribbles to the top of the D and just hits a bullet. Look how fast it happens. So fast I can't even do the play-by-play because it happens so fast. Um, Way to stay strong shape and keep that wrist locked for proper weight behind that push. Let's walk it through here. So first up, what do you see right here?
So I'm communicating to my defender on the backside about the guy over in the back corner, and
Okay.
then the guy in front of me. He's actually running to the corner to the left. So I'm communicating to my defender there, and then obviously this is an opportunity where our forward can come double team. So we're also trying to communicate that. But this game is so fast. If you are a second late, obviously he's going to beat this first guy and he's going to have a shot. And that shot is probably less than 12 yards. So you got
Okay,
to,
so that's the thing here. Like TV kind of warps everything. This is way closer than it actually looks on TV, right?
yeah. Uh,
So the dribble inside. So basically, and I'm just guessing, do you try to force people wide in the indoor game because of how quick the ball comes to you and when it's direct inside like that?
Certain players you do try to force out wide, but there's also
Okay.
players who know that they're gonna get forced wide, and they practice shooting from there, and they'll be able to just absolutely launch one top corner. So you got
Okay.
to be wary of that. You got to know your opponent.
So speaking of that, so obviously I'm sure you do a lot of scouting, and I'm sure you're very familiar. I'm assuming this guy Vadim Koyakov, by the name, has been playing football for a decent amount of time in his life, and
Yeah.
you probably have done some scouting and recognize that this guy hits these types of balls. But so once he gets here, I notice first off, because short distance, you have players stepping in towards the ball, but that obstructs your view, right? Is that what you want, or do you want them to get out of the way?
Uh, if they're gonna block the shot, you want them blocking the shot. Obviously,
Yeah.
uh, it does obstruct you a little bit, but for the most part, you're able to see it if you're in the right position. Right here, I don't think it shows, but I'm actually to the right of where my defender is, so I have a pretty good angle on the ball.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, he's still able to get a big, pretty hard shot off. Uh, my teammates weren't able to get there to block it.
So that's a question for me actually for you, is that in the indoor game, because the distances are so close, and obviously this gets kind of back to the outdoor game, and when you're dealing with a shot from such an in close range, do you cheat a little bit and be a little bit off ball line just so that you can get a good view of the ball, recognizing the fact that you have the ability, because the goal dimensions are smaller, to be able to push off and go across that space?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
So when you're playing indoor, you got to recognize that right-footed shooters are gonna most likely shoot to your left, and lefties are gonna shoot to your right. So you do have a little bit of leeway to cheat and be able to react and get back.
Okay.
Uh, Obviously here, I saw my defend. I had two defenders to my left. So if you were to shoot to my right, sorry, if he was going to shoot there, it probably would have gotten blocked. So I was able to cheat over just a little bit to be able to get in the correct position to make the save.
So now the ball is hit, right? And obviously it's very close distance right here. And as you can see, the player did step in to try to block the ball. So now this doesn't give you a lot of time to react. Are you immediately going lift and steer this ball out of play? Or are you thinking, steer this ball away towards the boards, towards those clear boards right there, so my team can counter.
When I saw that it was going towards the top of the goal, that's when I was like, gotta get it up and over instead of hitting it off those backboards and getting a rebound or hitting it into the corner because they had a guy there. So my mind was get the ball out of play in this situation.
Okay, and you go with that top hand over that. Was that just reactionary? Was that or was that a conscious decision? Go with that top hand because it's going to play it out of bounds like that.
That was more reactionary.
Okay.
My technique is I go with my bottom hand normally for
Okay.
outdoor. But that one was more reactionary, obviously, because it's a short distance and it was coming out of the from behind my defender. So there's more reactionary.
So I'm looking here. It looks like there's a little bit of a drop step. Do you really have time to get a drop step in the indoor game, or a lot of times are you just flat-footed and making a steer?
There's quite a few times where you're flat-footed and you just have to rely on your leg strength to get over. If you like here, I had just enough time to be able to get my power step off, but a lot of the times you're flat-footed and you just have to rely on your leg strength.
Yeah, and then I think also, one of the things I want to bring up before we move on to the next clip right here, and I think I brought this up on the Union app when you posted this action, was your wrist strength and the forearm strength and the wrist strength right here of being able to stay locked and be able to get that push off. Because I think one of the problems that happens a lot of times, especially for young players at close distances, is that their hands become literally just the wet noodle type situation. And because of that, the ball just gets steered into the goal.
Yeah, I had a problem with that when I was younger. My coaches for when I got into high school, there's a lot of forearm and wrist strength activities, and a lot of technique work where my wrists are always locked. Especially in the indoor game, if you have a loose wrist, you're either going to get hurt or you're.
Hey, Wezly, what's up, man?
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Good. Just setting everything up. And guys, if you are tuning in right now, we are about to start in a few minutes right now. The one and only Wezly Barnard, not Bernard, Barnard.
I noticed as I was switching it on that was like that, but
oh
hey,
my gosh,
I'll still answer. I'll still answer to it. That's fine.
I'm sure you're so used to it by now. You probably don't even notice it. It's kind of like Saskia. The way you're supposed to pronounce Saskia is Saskia, not Saskia. And she's like, I'm so used to people saying Saskia, I say it too. So
okay.
yeah,
I'm actually impressed. It's normally my first name that everybody gets wrong. So
the Wezly?
Yeah. So it's not everybody goes to the Wesley regular way of spelling Wezly. So
so what do they say? Weasley?
No, Wesley's fine. It's just the spelling.
That's funny, man. I was just thinking about that. Like there's I think it was before Britney Spears. Everybody spelled Britney a certain way, and now you'll be out on the fields and there's all these Britneys out there, and they're all spelled like Britney Spears because they all were born around that time period. So
no, that's good. It's funny.
It's crazy, man. Is Andrew joining us as well?
He should be. I spoke to him in the office today, and he said he's definitely coming on.
Cool. Yeah. So guys, we will be starting in a couple minutes right now. Wezly, you sound fantastic on there. Saskia will be joining us around 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern time. She got a last minute production meeting with the league. Unfortunately, with these press conferences and all that stuff, this, Wezly, that they can be moved around for the press based on your guys' training schedules. So she'll be joining us as soon as she can. And look at that, there's Andrew right there. Look at that guy.
There he is. I just texted him. His ears were burning.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, so we'll get started in like about a minute, guys.
Sounds good.
And Andrew, do you pronounce your last name Tait, I'm assuming?
Yeah, nothing complicated there, just the spelling, obviously.
Not like Wesley's name.
Yeah. Mine's
Dude,
easy.
Wezly, I swear, we'll talk. Well, we'll talk about this when the show starts. We will. Might as well just get this thing going. Hold on one second here. Let me get this thing here. And here we go. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from a very dry now West Hollywood, California. We've only had our 9th storm of the season, and hopefully it'll continue to stay dry so I can play my my little 7-a-side game later on tonight. Guys, I'm sure you tuned in to hear more about my 7-a-side soccer team, but no Saskia Weber right now. She'll be joining us later on. She had a last minute production meeting she had to hop on to, but that's okay because filling her shoes are the one and only Wezly Barnard, director of goalkeeping at North Carolina Football Club, and Andrew Tait from the youth recreation program over at North Carolina Football Club. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Great.
I'm excited about this,
Thank
man.
you. Yeah.
Of course, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks for having us.
For sure. I mean, I think, one of the really cool things about this is this is a topic, and we're going to be talking about it once the show starts and everything like that. And today's topic, guys, is building a virtual clinic. But it's something that we've been discussing a lot on this show through different presentations that have come on from different speakers, little people like Phil Wedden, small grassroots type coaches. And we're like, maybe we should do a whole episode about this. So before we kind of get into the topic, though, Andrew, why don't you talk a little bit about, I think some people are familiar with Wezly and his role. They've heard of director of goalkeeping before. They probably don't know what NCFC youth recreation director means.
No. So NCFC Youth stands for North Carolina Football Club. I'm obviously the youth component of that, which is comprised of 2 former clubs, Capital Area Soccer League, or Castle as they were once known, and Triangle Football Club. So come together under the NCFC umbrella. And I oversee our recreation program, which is grassroots, where kids get started and really sort of develop a love for the game. So we've got about 7,000 kids, I think, in our program this spring. So monumental numbers, maybe building off the World Cup and leading into the Women's World Cup coming up.
7,000 kids.
Yeah.
So Wezly, I'm assuming at the foundational ages you have 400 goalkeepers a session. Is that what's going on?
We have around about 330. I was actually looking at the other day, 330 goalkeepers within the club under the umbrella, but we still keep the sessions nice and small as far as the groups go. We work diligently to try and keep them in small groups, but yeah, there's about 330 goalkeepers under our watch as the goalkeeper program.
So talk a little bit about that, though. And Andrew, feel free to interject any time whatsoever. So Wesley's not talking for 4 minutes. But no, I'm totally kidding. But but the thing is that like recreation, the scary thing when it comes to recreation, Wezly, is pigeonholing a kid into being a goalkeeper at such a young age. Obviously, you're working hand in hand with all the other goalkeeper coaches at North Carolina Football Club. How do you make sure to gently introduce the position at that rec or foundational level?
Yeah, so obviously work diligently with our goalkeeping framework and how we look at sort of portraying that over different age groups, over different levels, and what we actually just want to try and put into the program at certain levels. In the recreation side, and especially at the younger ages, we just want to make sure that players are introduced to the goalkeeping position. We want them to learn more about it. There's a very technical focus a little bit of a technical focus that goes into their training. And then we just want them to get in goal and see what is this position all about. And, at the recreation level, the most important key for me is for them to have fun with it. Because the minute you take the fun out of it, you start to lose interest in whatever it is. Obviously, this is goalkeeping, but we just want them to enjoy the position, learn a little bit more, put some tools in their toolbox to be able to do it, and then figure it out from there.
Yeah, Andrew, talking to you right here, obviously, you're involved with this rec program at a professional club. A lot of people might see that as a conflict of interest. They go, well, what is this? Is this a recruiting tactic by them to find players? And obviously, I'm sure you're trying to funnel players through your rec program into the competitive program. But how do you kind of, keep a separate but equal, mentality at the same time, finding opportunities for the players that do want to move on to that next level?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the one thing we've sort of, our mission statement is trying to provide high quality soccer opportunities at every level. Obviously, from my side, with the recreation side of things, it's difficult because we have volunteer coaches, and that's where some of the things that myself and Wes and some of the other coaches involved at the club, we try to work together to support our coaches as best we can. But for me, it's obviously it's great for being from England myself. I don't know if I can still sound like it, but originally from England, growing up around professional sports and having that link as a grassroots club to a professional club, and go and watch players in your back garden and seeing them and having that ability to try and emulate what they do is fantastic. For us to have the same badge as the men's team here, or a partnership with the Courage, for me, that's a phenomenal thing to work off of and have the opportunity to go watch those players and then try and learn from them, and whether it's player appearances or them coming out or speaking to their coaches and things that we try to do to connect the youth and the pro, I think are huge.
That's such a great point that you brought up. And Wezly, feel free to step in anytime. Otherwise, I will be talking for 5 minutes. You guys don't need to wait for a question from me. But, Wezly, obviously, you're involved with the professional outfit in regards to the youth academy, and there is obviously Courage, and there's, the men's team is there as well, too. But having that community engagement, for the players at the rec level makes them so much more familiar with the program, and especially the parents when they get to you, as opposed to just coming from an AYSO program. And they're like, well, what is this? Because that's what happens a lot of times out here, in Southern California, is you'll go out to scout at the rec, programs, to find competitive players. And a lot of times the parents don't know anything about competitive soccer.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, there's a plethora of staff, Andy probably involved a little bit more than I am, that help with these opportunities as far as getting to pro games and ticket messaging that goes out via emails and getting them close to the pros and making fun activities at games, and putting signs up that recognize levels within the club around the stadium, and a kid walks past and says, I want to be part of that. So I think there's a very positive environment, culture around the club with making the best efforts to connect all programs. We try and do it just even within the goalkeeping program, and keeping the GK union together, and making sure that there's environments, opportunities, sessions, activities, everything that we can to try and link the programs. And we have a good office space where people like Andy and myself could share ideas, get together. Hey, I've got this idea, sit around the table and see how we can link everything together.
Yeah, just kind of how you brought that up right there, Andrew, I was just kind of thinking about this, and like outside of just like, I'm providing, orange slices and Lunchables, I'm sure there's a lot more that goes into the rec level than just that. But how important is you to get those young kids out to the pro matches to meet these players, so that once they get to Wezly, they want to stay involved in the program. They would never even think about going to another club because they've become part of the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Community is one of our core values. And I think that's something for me coming out of COVID in 2020 and everything that we lost as a result of that period. For me at the grassroots level, fun and community are the biggest things. So, even the pro team struggled to hold training sessions that looked anyway somewhat normal. Whereas for me now, so I'm lucky enough that I get to do some of the play-by-play for the men's game. So for me, I've got one foot in the very grassroots, the very beginnings of players, and then I'm still attached to the higher levels in terms of being able to sit at Wakemead Soccer Park in one of the best seats and commentate on some of the stuff that's going on and kind of link the two. So for me, I look at myself as a bit of a link man, and we've done some youth to pro Zooms where we're, like we are now, sitting here talking about the game, and we've had the likes of Casey Murphy, who's a phenomenal goalkeeper on the women's side, and in the women's national team, and she was a great example for our players. It was a great opportunity to get to know her. And then Nick Holiday, who's a young starlet, 17-year-old, goalkeeper in our program now, who's hopefully going to go on like Casey Murphy into the national team and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up that thing right there too, and then I guess you have to, suffer through Nathan Thackeray at the exact same time when in order to have these opportunities. But you brought up the fact of like these people, who are moving on to the national team level and everything like that, and I think, for a young kid, let's say 8, 9, 10 years old, to see that there's that pathway, to get to that. And I'm obviously talking more Nick Holiday than Casey Murphy. Obviously, Casey Murphy went the more traditional path, coming through Rutgers, going to France. Well, maybe it's not the traditional path, just not not this path. But there's that possibility. It's like, hey, I'm 8 years old right now. I'm in the rec program. One day I could be on the U17 national team.
Yeah. And I think just for me, Wes, I'll let you answer it from more of a goalkeeper standpoint. For me, there is no one path, is what I would say. Even just looking at Nick Holiday, like he was such a late developer, I think, in terms of introduction to the sport. The bigger kid got stuck in the goal and developed a love for it, and maybe introduction with different sports. I know in speaking to Casey Murphy, I was hoping to sort of, every player's got this sort of pathway of where they get to the top. And I was hoping Casey could talk about a moment where she suffered some real adversity. She didn't get picked for a team. And it was just straight to the top. So, that's not really a true reflection of, I would say, the typical athlete's journey. Maybe you get turned away, you're too small, you're this, you're that. Whereas Casey's just a phenomenal character, and she's just continued to take everything in her stride. I think for Nick, just his mentality as a 15-year-old going into a pro environment, but I'm sure Wes can talk more about his introduction there and what his mentality and what he's like in that level.
Andrew, what is Casey Murphy's Venmo? Because I'm sure she just sent you one, right?
Well, the thing is, she let me down in that moment, Michael. She let me down. I was like, okay, Casey, so you've gone here, like talk to me about some struggles in your career. And it was just like, I had this little pinky injury this one time that was a problem, and I was just like, no, Casey, I need more than that. Like she was just like, I had to miss a couple of games here or there. So, but full credit to her.
So Wezly, let's talk a little bit about kind of the genesis of when you guys started all this, because today's topic is going to be about building this virtual clinic and everything like that. But first off, when did you see, oh, you know what, there's a need here, and who am I going to partner with at the club to build this program, to build this clinic?
So obviously Andy takes the lead on a lot of these clinics. He came over and mentioned goalkeeping, and we had a chat in the office, and we spoke about it, and he said, I want to do one on incorporating the goalkeeper into the team, and I thought that's a great segue to build a virtual clinic around. Because it's a good way, obviously, the size and the nature of what we call our club, and 7,000 in one, and several other thousands in other. It's a great way to bring coaches together, and discuss, elaborate, talk about, and really dig into how we can improve parts of the environment, parts of the game. And luckily enough, Andy included us to talk about the small piece of goalkeeping. And it was a great way to get coaches together and discuss how we can improve this situation as far as getting goalkeepers, incorporated. And it's just a good way, probably stemming off COVID, where we've all been on screens to figure out a way to reach the most people over a specific topic. So it's definitely, Andy does a great job with it, and continues to do so. And it's been a very, very positive influence with coaches at the club.
So let's talk about that really quickly, Andrew, because, I think one of the benefits, and I use that term loosely with the pandemic, because I know that that's a slippery slope right there. But one of the benefits is that people became very comfortable in front of screens, and they became very comfortable with spending a good amount of time in front of screens, as opposed to just, TikTok or Instagram for 30 seconds type of a thing. So was that kind of the genesis? You're like, okay, people are already comfortable in this environment. It's going to be more cost effective for us. We're going to be able to have a longer reach. Let's just do it this way.
Yeah, I think there's a number of reasons. I think for us, we're such a large club, and we're always trying to expand our reach and make it accessible for people. And I think this is something now when you look back at it, it's like we banged our head against a brick wall trying to get all these people to drive 45 minutes, half an hour on a busy Monday night or whatever, with everything else that's going on. You know, they're trying to make their 7v7 game in the evening, Michael, right? So
yeah, exactly, man.
There's
And
all these
priorities,
things
right?
Exactly. So as much as they want to get better and want to absorb new information, for us, it was how can we make it accessible? So some things just make sense. And I think for us now, we've done so many clinics in the past, things that you do and you get 10 people, 50, and it's never the people that you know should be there, or never the people that you need to be there. So by doing this, obviously it's great for us to get live interaction and dialogue going, but also a way for us to record it and store it and save it for future clinics or future absorption from new coaches or existing coaches.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can say is, like, if only I'd known that you guys were starting this, and if you'd known this, a few months ago, you could have used literally all the capabilities in the Union platform as opposed to doing it by yourselves. But other than that, you guys did a great job. Great job with this. So maybe Wezly, maybe there might be some parents listening out there who are like, we have no idea what a virtual clinic is. Is this a bunch of people dancing, wearing goalkeeping gloves, going through a fiery hula hoop? Because that's what I see a lot on social media. Why don't you explain to some parents the differences between like an educational module and some of this social content they're seeing?
Yeah, so obviously we always say there's not a right and a wrong, but there's obviously better ways of doing things. And we obviously want, when obviously through education and work and experience that we have, when we see what does work, that's when the sharing comes, and we collaborate as coaches, and we want to share and give feedback. So social media can be a little dangerous when we see what some of the things are that are going out there. And the thing for me is, as I've spent some time with Phil, and he always speaks about the why. If we know why we're doing things, and can justify it and see the progress and the development from what we're doing, then why not share it, and put the right content out there that is going to benefit players, that are going to benefit players as people, rather than jumping through fires and out of vans and all the funny stuff that we see. I'm sure they have their why, but when we're speaking about doing what we're doing and developing within the game, I don't know how much sense that makes. So and that's what I say, these clinics, these virtual clinics are educational, but as Andy says, they're very we collaborate. It's very discussion based, rather than watch a seminar, take notes, and then off you go.
Yeah. And by the way, Andrew, before I talk to you right here, I just want to let you know that I'm corporately obligated to put up that banner about the union and what the union is. When Wezly mentions anything about social media, that's just how that works right there. I want to throw this up here right now. I want to start putting this up here. Because first off, you guys spent a good deal of time in graphics making this. So I want everyone to be able to see this outside of North Carolina Football Club. Because I got to be honest with you, I don't know about you, but when I put presentations together or decks and only 4 people see it, I'm like, man, that was a lot of work for 4 people.
It's good work, though. Good work.
Yeah.
So let's start with this right here. And Andrew, I know that you put a great deal of time in putting this presentation together. This is the flyer that you sent out to the club, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what was it that you wanted to share in this flyer to get people to want to attend this? Because again, today's topic is about, building a virtual clinic. And I've seen so many people making mistakes on how to do this right, how to, what to include, what not to include. They go, oh, 7 people showed up. I'm like, well, how did you promote it? They're like, it was a slap together flyer. I misspelled and, wrong pictures, all that stuff. I'm shocked only 7 people came.
Yeah, obviously, I think the first thing for me is it's the talent, right? It's the, it's my face isn't on there, right? That's one thing, not to scare people away. Part of the reason, Michael, why I didn't give you my headshot till later in the day. Wes much more attractive.
I would have included it if you had sent it earlier. I would have included it.
Hey,
by the time you got it out there, I'd already
which, like I said, Michael, there's probably more people as a result. but ultimately for me, it's the talent, right? Mike McGinty is a phenomenal goalkeeping coach and unbelievable background and chance for people to get to know the man behind the NCFC goalkeepers and the men's side and the great work that he's doing and his background. And then obviously the same for Wes in terms of what he does within the youth side. So having the pro and the youth and trying to put it all together is something that I'm very passionate about.
And I gave him my Venmo for that as well, Mike.
There you go. Well, notice how he mentioned more about Mike than he did you, Wes. But
I realize that I've got to work. I got to work harder to get on his good side.
I think I will be honest with you, Andrew. The biggest accomplishment that you made with this flyer is you spelled Wezly Barnard opposed to Bernard. So that's a big step right there. Wezly, let's talk a little bit about the meat of what you wanted when you talked to Andrew in this flyer to get people interested, because I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they do these is they add too much information and people are overwhelmed.
Yeah, plain simple. I think it's relatable. I've been around environments where, coaches, it's not a case of they're purposely not integrating goalkeepers. It's just, how do we do that? What is best practices? What are, so I think Andy, did a good job of keeping it simple, like you said, but yet eloquent in what we're doing. And it's a simple topic, development and integration. It's all you need to know. And, the rest would come within the presentation. But I think it's plain and simple. And when you read it, you want to know more.
Andrew, I think one thing, that I want to bring up with this, and this is a big key that I'd like to express to a lot of it. I almost said young coaches out there, but just any coaches who are doing this, is that a lot of times people, let's say in your rec world or even in the professional coaching world who are team coaches, see the word goalkeeper and development and go, that's not for me, man. That's not for me. I don't, that's not where I want to spend my afternoon. So how do you stress to them that this is going to be important for them to attend?
Yeah, I think it's something we still struggle with now, Michael, whether it's goalkeeping or any other topic for that matter. Like as we talk about, everyone's busy. I've got young children. Wesley's got one about to arrive in about 5 minutes, I think. So beware of that. But I think it's difficult to get that message across, and hopefully you've got people that are invested in what they're doing. I know we've got fantastic people at all levels. And as I stressed to you before, Michael, I think the people that probably needed to be on this call, they're the ones that probably aren't doing a great job of understanding the role, of developing their goalkeepers, of integrating them into the sessions, are probably the ones that don't take the time to do this. But they'll be the ones that maybe don't progress in their career or maximize the quality of the players that they have. But for us, we try to focus on the glass being half full, and the people that we do get on, if we can get somebody that gets one positive thing out of it, then fantastic. And obviously the players can be all the better for it.
Before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the virtual clinic, I just want to ask you, Wezly, as a goalkeeping educator, obviously you're going to be a little bit biased, but why is it the club's responsibility to continue this education for youth coaches? Is it just because they won't do it otherwise?
No, just, if we want to provide, like Andy said, one of the best levels of youth soccer, this is something that's got to be important, and we've got to reach out and do a little extra. As you can see, it's, Mike McGinty, who's, I'm sure, is busy. He's also in international duties and club duties. Myself as well. For us to take the time and actually, work with Andy to put things like this together, I think also illustrates to the club that we care about it. It's a topic we're aware of. We want to improve. We want to help people improve. And this is just one of many topics that Andy's done. Obviously, like you say, he's got the pros on, he's got other people on, so as much as, like Andy said, the word spreads, I think it's growing in a positive way. And I think that's why it's important for us to do it. And, we can see how the traction's picked up. So, a little bit of work in the beginning, just as Andy said, you start off with 7, 15, now you're up to 50. Now we're up to, however many start to join. I think it's important for us to at least have the resource there.
So let's talk about this, Andy, because obviously you've got a little bit of experience doing this, not just for goalkeeping education, but other types of education too. I think the number one thing I love the fact is that at the beginning of this clinic, when you're putting together your presentation, you have a rundown, you have a run of show, so people have a familiarity of what they're going to be seeing, what's going to be covered, and then they also can take this snapshot and go like, okay, boom, 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 boom. As opposed to, I've seen Andrew so many times. Do you go by Andy or Andrew? Which one do you like more?
I prefer Andrew, but my wife calls me Andy, so I just can't get her to stop. So
okay. All right. So and Dizzle, no. Andrew, why did you include this in the public presentation of the clinic?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know if I really do this all the time, Michael, to be honest. I think this is probably because I was so far outside my wheelhouse. You know what I mean? As an outfield player, I got pushed further and back from wanting to be a striker to then being a midfielder to defender, and then in college playing in everyone's favorite position of sweeper, basically goalkeeper without the gloves. I was so far removed from what I was probably most comfortable with that this was something I just wanted to make sure we touched on all the things that I know very little about, right? I know specialization is something as a coach myself, with like, when do you do it? Do you force everyone in the goal? So there's so many things here that I wanted to try and pick Wes and Mike's brain on and get their wealth of expertise.
You know, I think that's such a really key point, Andrew, that you brought that up right there, because I think, you know, one of the problems, Wezly, that I think I see a lot of times when clubs try to put together programs. Did the kid just arrive? Is that what just happened?
No, I turned my phone on silent, but okay. that's the insurance company calling, so I'm sorry.
I thought that was like a notification, like child's on the way.
Wes's
wrap this up, dude.
You would have seen my headphones drop and me out the door, and I would have said, Andy, you got it.
But you know, Andrew, did you like Wezly? Did Andrew approach you and be like, "Hey, man, like without you and Mike, like I can't do this. So like you guys are gonna have to help me with the meat and potatoes, as John Bush likes to say, of the curriculum. I can put the presentation together, but I need you to build it for me."
Yeah, so Andy obviously came in. We you know, our offices aren't too far from each other. You know, he said, "Come and have a look at this. I'm trying to put this together. This is what I'm thinking. Here's the video. Here's some content. You know, what do you think?" And then obviously from there, my goalkeeping, you know, brain just starts going, and I start chatting. And you know, next thing we've been chatting for 45 minutes in his office, and think, oh, we got to get back to normal life. But it's a topic that grew. We continued to talk about it. I got excited about it. I think he noticed the excitement from my side. And yeah, we just collaborated on it, and he gave me the idea of how he wanted it to run and why he's doing it. And I said, I'm happy to help with the content. Let's go for it.
Andrew, how important is this at the rec level? Because I think a lot of people would argue and they say, well, why does it matter? You know, you put a kid on with gloves and a bib and you throw them out there.
Well, they won't stay in the goal very often, Michael, if we do that, and some do, and I think I'm as guilty of that as many. Like, you know, you rotate through your team, no one wants to go in goal, hey, it's your turn, sort of thing, and that's where it's the little details as a coach that come in. But I think for me, we've got so many, you know, we've got close to, I think, 1,500 coaches but there's so many of them, male, female, younger, older, that want to do the best possible job by the kids. And like I said, this was outside my wheelhouse. So I think for a lot of these people, when it comes to selecting the goalkeeper, maybe you've got one kid at under 9 that he's decided he's a goalkeeper. Like my 7-year-old son, we don't even have goalkeeper at his level, but you know, he loves being in the goal and his dad shooting on him. Maybe because I build his confidence, but ultimately, I think they want to do the right thing, and I think we can always learn and get better. And you know, whether it's specialization, whether it's understanding what is the main principles of being a goalkeeper. Mike McGinty, the first thing he said was, I was like, "What is the role of a goalkeeper?" Straight away, it's like, just keep the ball out of the net. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? Whether it's your face or whatever. So for me, I think it was just really interesting to touch on some of these things, and for me, I learned a lot. So.
I think you know, a key thing, Mike, like what, you know, I remember back in the day when I first started coaching, you know, the key word for Andy was volunteer. You know, a parent, you know, well, who wants to do this? Well, I guess I've got the time, I'll volunteer. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'll make sure they get on the field and, you know, maybe we get a game going. So then I think they start to look for resources and say, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it properly. Hence, then, Andy's clinics start to, I guess, help them start to, provide a better environment for the kids.
One thing I love about this right here, Andrew, is obviously if you're talking about rec coaches and also you see some team coaches at the competitive level as well too, is that you're making this accessible for the layperson, and the, let's just say, the goalkeeper enthusiast. So they're both going to benefit something from this here. And by goalkeeper enthusiast, I mean more of the competitive level coach that knows a little bit about goalkeeping. Because even here, you just breaking down the general description of what a goalkeeper is, I think that's really important at the rec level, because I think a lot of those parents out there don't really understand the responsibilities of the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the non-layperson competitive coach understanding what the role, like we either overthink it, underthink it, and like I said, I learned a lot just from this dialogue that we had for about an hour, just picking the brains of Wes and Mike. And yeah, this is something from our technical framework that the club has from top to bottom, and I think sometimes our coaches are probably scared to touch this document because I think it's like 50 pages, but it's a framework. It's not something that you have to go and follow to a T, but it's more guidance, like we said, of what the goalkeeper is and what the role and responsibility. So it's a tool, it's a resource, as Wes says, and something that the staff have put a lot of time and effort into.
I love what you just said right there, Andrew and Wezly. I can't tell you how many times I've either seen at a clinic or at convention or or me choking up about this is as I get a thing from the Census Bureau. That's definitely spam. But I get so many people who they see a presentation and then they try to do it word for word, copy it when they get home, or they get frustrated that they're not everything that was put together right there, that they're not executing everything. And how important is it that when you talk to these coaches afterwards, Wezly, that you go, hey, these are just some thoughts. And just because I walk by your field and I don't see you implementing what I said word for word doesn't mean that you're doing a disservice to these goalkeepers.
Yeah, and like Andy says, this is a small snippet of, what we think a goalkeeping profile should look like, and attributes that go into it. And this is, for me, a continuous process. You can't just put this out there and say, okay, I can just give these goalkeepers these things and they'll be successful. It's a continuous process. So don't be intimidated by, the big words, the fancy jargon. Just take what you need from the profile, and maybe it's only 2 or 3 points in this profile that makes sense for you, or maybe they all make sense for you. And then reach out to if your club or organization, whatever it is, whichever level has goalkeeping staff, reach out to them and speak to them and collaborate. But this is a profile of a lot of the things that just show a foundation of what we look for in our profile at all levels. And we'll work towards all of that. We'll continue to work towards them each and every day. If we could bottle it up and sell it, we'd be rich, but we got to continue to keep working at these attributes. Hence why we have goalkeeping training.
Andrew, I want to talk about this with here because, you included this when you're putting together this presentation for team coaches. And you talked about specialization. This is a very, very difficult topic, especially when we're talking about the foundational ages. Parents have a different opinion than educators sometimes. People's schedules have a different opinion. The friends of goalkeepers have a different opinion on what they should be doing. What is your feeling with the club at the recreational level, at the foundational ages in specialization?
Yeah, so I think it's something we still talk about now, because I think even at the more competitive, I hate saying this one, more competitive but younger ages, so 11s and 12s, even 13s and 14s, I think we've seen the specialization. I think maybe 20 years ago, it was like people jumped into something goalkeeper straight away and just stayed with it, and it was fine. And then we started to become a little bit more educated, the likes of Edison and things like that, playing centre midfield, and that's now the model to go by. So sometimes I think there's a reluctance for people to almost go in the goal, because you might not ever come out if you get the wrong coach. So for me, on the recreation side, we try to, you've got kids that will tell you, hey, I only want to eat chicken nuggets for dinner every day of the week. Now, as adults, we have to go, you know what? Hey, I love that you found something that you enjoy. However, we need to have a balanced diet. So yes, you're gonna get your chicken nuggets some days of the week, but on other days of the week, you're gonna play right wing or left back or striker. So I think the younger we are, obviously, we want to spread the workload. So I think our under 9s and under 10s, 7v7, we're looking for it to probably be between, whether it's the whole team sort of spreads it out. Maybe you've got 4 goalkeepers that really kind of have a liking to it, and you play a half each over 2 games. As we get a little bit older into 9v9, U11s and 12s, we're probably looking at, maybe you've got a keeper that loves the position, is really specialized. Maybe they're playing a half of a game, and then that second half is being shared throughout the team. So we sort of give guidance around that. What we don't want is a team, especially at the younger ages, grabbing a kid, throwing him in the goal and going, Wes, you are 6 foot tall at 7 years old. You are our goalkeeper. And he doesn't want to do it, right? And then even if they do want to do it, there has to be some education around, hey, you're going to get that, but we want to round you out at the same time.
Yeah. And by the way, shout out to Luca, who's watching this in Italy. And, I think I love hearing of different people watching, this show from all over the world, because we all have a different point of view culturally in regards to the position, in regards to the game. And I think we're all trying to share different experiences that we've all had. Wezly, obviously, South African background and everything like that. I'm sure you didn't just specialize in just goalkeeping. I'm sure there were a few other sports. I'm guessing there was some rugby at some point in your life, and you're showing right here 2 goalkeepers that went on to play at the highest level, who did not specialize in goalkeeping or even soccer for that matter at the very beginning. They focused on other sports, and yet they still got to that highest level. How do you really stress this to the parents of these 8, 9, 10-year-olds who spend 17 hours on private training a week, and when their kid wants to go to swimming, they go, no, you've got goalkeeper training?
Yeah, no, I mean, and myself and Mike, had the same viewpoint. Like I always encourage multiple sports. We stress, it's also, different things. And we always talk about the burnout of players that we try and avoid, but there's so many good things that can come out of playing multiple sports. I played rugby, and everyone got bigger than me, so I had to figure out something else. And then I played a bit of cricket as well. But soccer is what stuck. So playing multiple sports should be encouraged. Hours and hours of specialized training, is it beneficial? It could be, but I think we need to encourage multiple sports. And the specialization, there's pros and cons to both. It's the environment, the level, all different things that go into it. I don't think there's a one size fits all for it.
So Andrew, I have a question for you here. Obviously, as you've put this together, just in a general aspect, I've noticed that you've kept the deck very simple. Is that intentional? So that, because I see a lot of times when I see presentations, it's so wordy, and it's like, I'm so focused on trying to read what's going on that I'm not listening to the presenters.
Yeah, I think for me, I most people I speak to these days are very visual, and I love to see pictures and images and things like that. So trying to find things, obviously the Hope Solo and the Matthew Turner, those are ones that I kind of knew about, but as I dug more into them, I was like, whoa, it was like the Hope Solo one. I had no clue that she was I think she was a striker, right? I think in college or something. Or something. It was just like, wow, even more impressive. The Matthew Turner one's a little bit more recent. So, but yeah, for me, just visual, allow the conversation to flow. And the preparation for this, there really wasn't an awful lot of prep. It was more find a question, pick the topic, and let these guys discuss it. And the one thing for me, going back to that specialization one, I didn't know, but I remember having a female goalkeeper, and she played volleyball. That was her other sport she did. And I just remember high balls in the younger girls' game were always interesting, and she would just pluck balls that I thought were going 10 feet over her head, out like go gadget arms. But I think Wes and Mike sort of educated me that maybe basketball's a better synchronized fit in terms of a multi-sport and all that type of stuff. So these were things that I learned, and like I said, the discussion just sort of went based on the topic.
Wesley, I thought about that actually too, in regards to when you're putting together this program for, especially for the rec program, where you're talking about maybe some team coaches who didn't play soccer themselves. They grew up playing different sports. Do you utilize that to try to explain to them, like, so this is kind of like when you're blah, blah, blah and blah, blah, blah. So they kind of get the picture?
Always. I always reference other sports. Even when I talk to my goalkeepers, sometimes I reference a quarterback, position. And when the quarterback receives the ball, for instance, like an in-possession moment, they're now solving problems and scanning for the best option. I sometimes use that analogy, and sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't, because then we get into, what team do you support, and did you see the game? And now we're off topic, but we have some fun with it. But I always try and use analogies from other sports. Basketball is a very footwork oriented sport that I think is similar to goalkeeping that can help. So, I think I have a goalkeeper on the female side that is probably one of the top basketball players in her region. At goalkeeper training, and I try and encourage her to use some attributes she brings over from it, and say, yeah, just like that, and she loves it, because now it's a different attribute of something else she does that also we're now showing interest in. So
yeah, and I think you just brought up such a great point. And Andrew, obviously you working at the recreational level, my guess is that a lot of these young kids are playing because they're experimenting, they're exploring, they're probably playing 4 or 5 different sports at a time, season to season, kind of the traditional old American model of, like, it's fall, so you play blah, blah, blah. In the winter, you play this, and the spring, you play this, as opposed to just the specialization at such a young age. Do you feel that when you're talking about integrating the goalkeeper, a lot of times these younger team coaches start being like, no, don't do that. Goalkeepers are supposed to move like this, or goalkeepers supposed to catch the ball like this. And then these kids almost get out coached of their abilities.
Yeah, I think we're guilty of that in probably all positions, but especially in goalkeeping. You've got one dad that played in goal 40 years ago, and now he's the expert on goalkeeping. Which I think for any of us trying to tell someone you need to do it like this, we have to be careful, because maybe there's a better way of doing it than maybe what we know or how we do it. But yeah, I think the one thing with integration, I think the big thing that we always see is that I'm not a part of the union. Like I said, I got very close as a sweeper moving back there, but they're always a group that's off by themselves, and I've never been brought in, which I appreciate you bringing me in now. But yeah, I think it's something where we want them to feel a part of the team. And obviously, we talk about the specialization. The younger, everyone should be a part of that goalkeeping experience. And I never got the goalkeeper wars as a kid experience, but in jumping in some clinics in my older or younger coaching years, I'd jump in and help out with a goalie clinic and a college combine or something. I'm like, this is amazing. I might have become a goalkeeper, if I'd have done this at a younger age. So I think just adding those things in and getting everyone to experience it, and sharing the role. And like I said, you don't know you'd like it, or you don't know if you don't like it unless you try it. So I'm a big proponent of having people experience the role of the goalkeeper, so they understand, hey, maybe I'm not going to shout at the goalkeeper when he lets one in and I've missed 5 chances as a striker, because I know how difficult it is as a goalkeeper.
You by the way, the whole sweeper thing is just hilarious to me, because I never even thought about the fact is, like, the sweeper is basically doing the job of the modern goalkeeper, but not getting any of the accolades of it whatsoever. At the same time, none of the shame either. So if somebody beats that sweeper, no one's disappointed. They're like, the goalkeeper should have stopped it.
Yep.
But talking about integration, Wezly, how important is it that you are working with your team coaches, and not only just getting them to come to a clinic like this, and this is a little bit tangential, but actually going to their sessions and being like, here, I'm not trying to step on any toes here, but let me just give you a little bit of constructive criticism on how maybe this could flow a little bit better with this goalkeeper here.
Yeah, I think it's very important. And as I mentioned with Andy, I've walked around, and we have multiple locations, obviously, that we work at, and I do sometimes walk in and instead of going, look at that again, he doesn't include the goalkeepers. I'll go over and ask, hey, what are they doing? Can I help out? He's like, and then either you get, can you keep them busy? I was like, well, what are you doing? Maybe we can do it together. So I think that collaboration is extremely important. We're always having conversations in the office with directors as far as, hey, how are we doing this? How can we do it? How can we improve it? And then, us as a goalkeeping staff also finding the time to go over to team training ourselves, and being part of that. Oh, there we go.
Look who's here.
Yep.
Hi, everybody.
Saskia,
Hey,
to catch you up, we were just talking about the fact that Andrew was a sweeper, so he didn't get any of the glory of being a goalkeeper, but had to deal with all the same issues.
Oh, boo-hoo.
They don't get to pick the ball out of the net.
Exactly.
I want to talk about this with you, Andrew, because, while you were putting this whole program together with Wezly, it seems to me that you used a lot of visual aids, but it was a very interactive course. Was that something that was really important from you from the get-go? Because you didn't want this to be a webinar where people are just sitting there like this, texting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think for me, just each image sort of evokes a response from you or a thought, right? Like, I'm a Liverpool fan, so that last slide of Loris Karius crying, it was we were just doing this. I think we were just doing this the week before the League Cup final in England, where Newcastle had the major goalkeeping crisis where, I think their first two choice goalkeepers were out. Were they going to go with the teenager? Were they going to go with Karius, who hadn't played in a big final since this episode? So, we talked about, I think I asked Wes, Ted Lasso, be a goldfish. How maybe it's really important to quickly forget. And Wes, I think, had a different thought point on that.
Oh, I want to hear about this debate. Was it like a first take thing on ESPN? Is that what was going on here? But you guys shouting at each other?
No. I was just adding to. I mean, first of all, the way Andy puts it together is really good because it's visual and, again, relatable. I think a lot of what Andy does is relatable. And if people can relate to what he's putting up, I think it's easier and a lot more. Should I say easier to engage and take part in. Again, if you put everything up there that's fancy and too wordy, then people get intimidated, like we said about the profile. So everything he does is easy and relatable. And even if you're not in, this is a relatable moment that you can, that is a moment. But the goldfish moment is I always argue if a mistake happens, to completely forget.
I've never heard this before. I'm sitting here. I was like,
yeah, a goldfish is just.
I know.
Forget.
But did you also know a goldfish grows to the size of its environment?
Wait, what?
Oh,
yes.
I like that.
You like that, don't you? It grows to the size of its environment.
So yeah, that's awesome. And that probably relates to, I said, if a mistake happens, we can't just forget about it. We've got to move on quickly, but we've got to take nuggets along with us. So what from that mistake can we use to then move on quickly?
Is that how Casey Murphy got to 6'1"? Is because she grew up in a goal and so she just got she had that environment?
No, but I think you could use an analogy that, like, in the bigger the situation, the goldfish grows.
I love that. I love that. I want to throw this up here. This is from Luca Pisani over in Italy right now, and he or she. I apologize. I'm not sure the gender here. I think that integrating and experimenting with other sports during goalkeeper training can help stimulate different perceptions and movements that can help you express yourself much more quickly. Thoughts on that, Saskia?
Wait, sorry, I'm reading it. I know where you're at. Other sports during goal. Well, I mean, me, I was a multi-sport athlete, and I think that I think all of that gives you different perspectives and everything. I think if you go too far outside of the box, I mean, then is it really helping? But I think anything that, number one, a team environment, number one, a competitive environment across the board helps, period. And, I was a lacrosse player. No, I wasn't a goalkeeper, but it still helped me just from understanding attack, understanding those concepts and everything. So I think that it benefits. I don't like that athletes and players out there, young players, only play one sport now, and they pay it 12 months of the year. I think it benefits you no matter what position you're in.
It's funny because that's actually going back to the conversation we just had earlier, which is amazing, just how great minds think alike, obviously. But I do want to, with what Lucas said there, Wezly, and Andrew, you can chime in too. Yeah, as a sweeper, I guess you can talk. Whatever, we'll let you talk. But in regards to spike ball or playing handball or any sort of thing like that, I've found that sometimes that breaks up the monotony of goalkeeper training, and it allows kids to explore different parts of their movements and bodies that they don't get to if they're just going through cones.
100%. And
Absolutely.
100%. And you took the words out of my mouth. We play a lot of spike ball. We play soccer, tennis with feet only, with hands only, and referring it to soccer, tennis, if someone's playing tennis, I can relate to what I do at tennis practice maybe. And now you're looking at the environment of a square space that you're navigating. So we actually, the way we set up goalkeeping training, and Nathan's obviously very similar and had an influence of how we continue to do it. We always start with the game. We always start with some sort of spike ball, horseshoe, tennis, whatever it is, just to, like you said, relieve the stress of the day, get some, blood flowing, have some fun, switch the mindset. So it's definitely beneficial.
I would put my kids on the basketball court, and even timing off of rebounds, stuff like that, going up in a mix, like all of that, it depending, like sometimes because we were indoors or something happened and, club, and you got to figure it out. But all those things benefit. And I love the competition aspect as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. That just starts the whole competition environment for the training session. Immediately your mindset's like, okay, let's go.
I want to bring this up here, Andrew, because you're bringing up this goldfish thing here in this presentation, and obviously, Siska, to kind of catch you up, this whole presentation that they did, this virtual clinic, was on integrating the goalkeeper into the team setting. Andrew runs the rec program, the foundational program over at North Carolina. So obviously the little ones, and so those coaches, those team coaches, the mental aspect is so important at that young age, Andrew. And I love the fact that you included that. Was this an intentional thing to teach young coaches, hey, you need to be patient with these goalkeepers. You need to understand how to let them deal with mistakes. Obviously the Loris Karius, scenario right here, and how mental health is so important at that young age for those kids to want to continue to play the position. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. Mistakes are going to happen, right? Goals are going to go in. It's a fact of life. I think the thing for me is, as we had this discussion, I really sort of realized how the goalkeeper position is such an individual. It's like an individual sport within a sport, right? Like it's so integrated but separate at the same time. And I think this is why I got really close to being a goalkeeper. Like I talked about my backward progression or forward progression, as you want to talk about it. Maybe, I don't know. But the thing for me as a sweeper is I was able to stay engaged in the game and communicate and organize everyone in front of me, so I didn't have to do anything, kind of like a goalkeeper. But the time that a goalkeeper has to think about a mistake and can dwell on things, and everyone knows when the ball goes in the back of the net, maybe the goalkeeper could have done better, right? That's always the thing that comes into the mind.
Right.
So, the ball's going in the net, the goalkeeper knows that's not a good thing. So yes, we need to think past that. We need to find something that they did well. Hey, I loved how Saskia, I love how brave you were in coming out for that ball.
Right.
Like find the positive, praise the things that they're doing well, as opposed to Saskia, you should have stopped that. I realized that it would have been a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think in what you said is, integrating the team into that's important, because if, the goalkeepers are just on an island and then you just drop them into the end of your session and stuff, and all your team sees is, whether it's shooting or whatever it is goals going in and stuff like that, they have to be part of that understanding of why that goal went in, and integrating your goalkeeper into the session is paramount, because it's everybody's fault. It's the only way you survive mentally as a goalkeeper is to know it's everybody's fault sometimes. Yeah. I mean, we could talk about a couple goals in the NWSL this weekend, but it's
Wesley's already smiling right there. So sounds like you've got some opinions to put up. Oh, man. Well, hopefully it wasn't Casey Murphy, as she's.
It
as she's
wasn't. No, I just mean there are some mistakes that are just mistakes. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
But you know.
Wes, I want to ask you this because these are some really good points, Saskia, that you just brought up right there. And when you were putting this presentation together for these coaches, I almost said young coaches, but I know it's coaches of all different ages and abilities. Was it important for you to stress there that you need to make the goalkeeper feel like part of the team rather than as an accessory to the team?
100%. Always said being part of the team. They're a key part of the team. It's there can be evident impactful moments as far as what we call match-winning saves, supportive solutions in possession, and these are all fancy things, but some kids at the recreation level are just there to be with their friends, and if you separate them from being with their friends and say go to the corner over there and then come back at the end, then what are they there for? So the most important thing that we wanted to express within the presentation is that there's a bigger picture than just the X's and O's and the goalkeeping situation, to make sure that integrating and feeling part of the team is so important.
Yeah, I think
also, how can you expect your goalkeeper to turn around and organize and dictate and stuff if they're off on their own island and then you just bring them in? They have to be part of that. They have, the field players have to be used to hearing them, understanding the flow, understanding their communication, everything. You can't just expect it to happen organically if they're off playing quote unquote catch in a corner.
I see Andrew taking notes right here. I feel like everyone's learning right here. Andrew, I think one of the problems, especially at the rec level, is a lot of times is like 4 kids go, I want to be a goalkeeper. I want to be a goalkeeper, and like you just go to Wezly. Just go to Wezly. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
And Wezly goes, go back.
Yeah.
And they're stuck in the middle. They're stuck in limbo. Where do I go? That's that integration we're talking about. Someone's got to take them. No, the one thing for me is, and I've seen like on the recreation level, obviously this was for coaches at all levels because there's good practice and bad practice of integrating them. And, Wezly might take them for the first 45 minutes of their session, and then they're going back to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper, the team coach is sort of like, you guys just knock the ball back and forth for 10 minutes, as opposed to, just throwing them straight in there, whether it's a possession practice or whatever. But for us with the recreation, we may have one practice a week, right? So you've got one practice a week and you're under 10s and you've got a game coming up, and you're going to throw Michael and Wezly in the goal on Saturday with no preparation. You're just going to hand them a pair of gloves and here's a penny and off you go, you're in goal. And now they're going to stand in front of 20 adults on the sideline and try to keep the ball at the back of the net when they get peppered. So for me, it's that preparation. So in the practice before, if I know I'm going to use these 4 goalkeepers, these are the guys that are going to get the opportunity in the game. They're going to get the opportunity to feel it, play it, get some little tips, and get prepared for that game day environment. And then the other thing for me is the warm-ups as well. I still
yes.
And I'm not even a goalkeeper, but still to this day, I hate the old-fashioned lineup of 25 strikers. Coach goes and stands on the 18. You lay it in. I've seen this at the highest level of college game. It drives me bonkers.
You lay the ball off and they're just like fire.
Yeah, but my layoffs are fantastic. Let's be honest. My layoffs are amazing. How they don't score every time. But it's like the one, Wezly's in goal and he has to, before he's about to play, he's just conceded 20 goals in a row. And now he's got to play the game. And so this was something I know when talking to Nathan, he would say to me like we'd walk past the game and this goalkeeper's getting drilled 55 times in top corner, bottom corner, and they're absolutely exhausted. They ran a session, like a massive session in the space of 30 seconds. And now they're going into a game, like having 2 goalkeepers, or maybe the coach is jumping in, or taking the goalkeeper out altogether. Like these are just things that I think people don't think about. But I've certainly started to think about a lot more.
As well as I will say, if you're just one coach for your team and stuff and you don't have a goalkeeper coach there, have you structured your warm up for your goalkeepers as well? And so many times, especially in rec and stuff, you see the goalkeepers over there just like throwing the ball back and forth to each other, catching, while the team's in like an organized warm up. And it always drove me crazy where I would make sure my goalkeepers, because you can be anywhere at the same time, everywhere at the same time, had a structured warm up that they knew that they said, I'm like, here's your little area, your cones, your whatever. This is your warm up, the two of you before the game, because I know the coach isn't going to help you and I can't be there. So, but just seeing that, and then all of a sudden they go in for the rapid fire shots, and it's just like, okay, now go play.
Yeah. You know, and bless the heart to the team managers sometimes, Wezly, you know, who they're like,
Yeah.
I'll help you out, but they don't know, they're making it even worse.
And they're making up the weirdest drills all of a sudden.
Yeah, and that's where you get the sometimes the old school, or when I was in high school, it was done this way, and you know, and then it's jump for this and get down for that, and you know, but I mean, and that's again why we try and run clinics like this to help those moments and try and minimize them as much as possible, and provide resources. You know, we throw our pre-game warm up into our platform, so that, you know, it's there for coaches to see. We'll send it out to directors and to give them, even if they're not running that specific one, it's an idea of you know, how you can do it, and then integrate. You know, like Saskia says, you know, if you're doing a possession based, you know, drill, get the goalkeeper involved and have a little zone as to where they can be connected.
Yeah.
Well, Saskia, I know you need to run off right here.
I'm sorry, you guys. I got
okay.
inundated with I have 2 games this weekend, and I have a coach's call with Houston right now. So
problem.
I'm sorry, you guys.
Well,
Because I can talk about this stuff all the time.
Thank you for taking your little bit of a gap.
I have to fire off questions about Ordonez and stuff right now. Okay.
Which games are you covering this weekend, Saskia? So anybody who's watching.
I've got North Carolina. I've got San Diego against North Carolina. And then I've got Houston against, what's wrong with me right now? What's my other game? I have all my papers and everything. I have the Houston game. So let me run. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you later, Saskia. We'll start wrapping up here too, because I know Wezly's gonna have a kid at any moment here. So while we're kind of wrapping this up right here, I want to talk about continuing education in regards to after this clinic, because it's great to put these things together and people come and they're like, oh, it was awesome. And then 6 months later, they don't remember anything. So how do we make sure that everything that you've shared, you've spent all this time putting this all together, it's either actually getting implemented, or there's just at least some sort of a independent study or feedback loop going on?
I guess I'll go first, Wes, and then you can talk about the technicalities of it. I think the one thing with us when we put time and effort into these things is obviously recording it and trying to take the nuggets, because not everything Wezly or Mike said was fantastic. Some of it was probably absolute dribble, but hopefully there was something in there that can be packaged up and used, whether it's in a completely separate and all-encompassing coaching education meeting, or maybe I get an email from a coach who's, I have no idea what to do, and there's something that I can share with them, or I go past a game. And so I think for me, it's trying to pull the little bits and pieces out of it and figure out what we have, the meat and potatoes from the hour or so that we put together. And then, looking to see what was the feedback from it, you know, the conversations we have with the people that attended. And the biggest thing for me is trying to find out why people didn't attend. That is my main mission now. Is we've done some phenomenal things, I think, in the last 6 to 12 months, and trying to find, is it the day? Is it the time? Is it the advertising? Whatever it is it the time of year? Trying to figure out what we can do to get more people engaged and a part of this conversation, because it's only going to help them and help the players.
You know, I love what you just said right there, Andrew. And, you know, Wezly, you know, this is a conversation that we've had, not just, you know, in regards to goalkeeping, but in general education, is that feedback is so important. I know Phil Whedon always said to me, he said, after every presentation I do, I ask people, what did you like? What did you not like? And why did you not like something? Or why did you like something? Because otherwise we're just working in a vacuum and we really don't have any understanding. Do you all put out a survey or a forum? How about do you go about to get constructive feedback, maybe anonymous, so that people feel a little more comfortable?
Yeah, I think that's probably something that we probably need to do a better job of, Michael, is trying to, I think most people are quick to let us know if it's good. right? And we tend to get that stuff. I don't think too many people, they're happy to let us know when things aren't good in other areas of the stuff. But when it's an optional thing like that, you've got to be pretty mean to be coming out and slapping somebody in the face. And that was a complete waste of my time. They'll just click, leave the meeting, right? So I guess that's the gauge that we sort of use. But yeah, it's hard the balance of communicating to people, here, we're doing this, and then the balance of, hey, give us feedback and all the other things that are going on. It's difficult to do that, but certainly something that we need to do a better job of the mechanics of feedback and what do you need and all that good stuff.
Was there anything you want to add to that, or did I just put
Yeah,
you
I
guys
think,
on
I
the spot?
mean, I think Andy does a good job. I mean, there's emails that go out, staff emails, newsletters that go out. You saw it, you picked up on it. So they do a good job of sending it out and then recording and then saying thank yous. From my perspective, it put a little bit of a spark inside me to, when I'm at the field, looking for these moments. Now I'm, boots on the ground. How can I help these coaches with the situation since the presentation's been put on? So, working together from that perspective, I think, is important.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've started to really, really focus on is, as opposed to just oh my gosh, I need to pivot, I need to change something here. Be more like, well, why? What did I do wrong to start with that led me here? And whether that's a session, whether that's putting a presentation together, anything like that. So like it kind of brings me kind of full circle to this picture. Like, Wezly, Andrew, before people put together a program like this and either have success or failure, like what do they need to know before? Whether like they need to talk to their coaches before, find out the whys, find out the interest, et cetera, et cetera.
You're talking about putting a virtual
putting a clinic, because I think the thing is that like I might be like, Wes, let's do this, dude. This is going to be awesome. This is great. But we didn't do the proper research on like why are we doing this? Are we doing this just because we think we have to? Because right. I think a lot of clubs put on, whether it's virtual or in-person clinics, they do it just because they think they're supposed to.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, this is an easy one as to why. From my side, is because there was a need for it. Is this information and content that we're putting together? Is there a need for it? Is there? I even said to Andy when he spoke about it, I said, yeah, it's actually quite a real issue within youth soccer, and I think it's a very, very valuable topic to discuss. So I think just from my perspective, and this specific clinic that we put on is research. How is this going to help? Where will it help? How will it help? And why should we include the content based off of that research?
Yeah. Andrew, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think for me, we're always trying to help these coaches at every level. And the one thing I'd say about this particular webinar, Zoom, virtual clinic, whatever you want to call it, was the fact that I think it's going to age well. There wasn't anything in there that we said you have to do that this week, or that, I think it's a timeless, and the specialization topic, as long as I've been involved in coaching 15 plus years, it's something that's always existed, the conversation. No one's mastered it and said, this is the Bible of specialization. You need to do this, when it's just it's a hot topic, and it's something that we discussed. Everyone sort of gave their 2 cents on it. And it's something that I think will provide a good reference point, a good bit of insight into some experts in terms of what's the best thing to do, maybe some things to avoid, and things that may help them along the way.
One thing I want to add is, as we start wrapping this up, Wezly, and I'm sure you can attest for this as well too, is that so many clinics I'd gone to in the past that were meant for the team coaches were so technical. They were all technical, and it's like, well, but how's this really helping that coach work with their goalkeepers within their environment? You're basically giving them a crash course on goalkeeper technical training and isolation.
As far as you're saying,
so like, for instance, like I've taken some courses, let's just say, from different groups in the past that were meant for the team coaches, and it's all about like, here's the proper collapse dive shape. Here's how to handle a ball. Here's a
Yeah,
crossing and everything like that. And then they go, and this was about incorporating the goalkeeper into the team setting. It's like, no, you just taught them some basics of goalkeeper technique. Like that doesn't really teach them how to use them within their team setting.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think, seeing how to incorporate and bring the goalkeeper in again outside of the X's and O's. I think there's a bigger picture that we can help understand. Not so much. I think that's maybe what you're saying. The issue is I don't know how to do all those technical things. I don't know how to show them the collapse dive. It's too intimidating for me. I don't want to deal with it. Where the more important thing is, let's give them a couple of things, keep the ball out of the net, and here's some, things I've seen, some basics, and provide them with some tools, and then get them part of the team. At the end of the day, they play the sport to have fun. They play the sport to make some friends. They, and along the way they learn some tools and some skills, and some obviously go to different levels. But that, to keep emphasizing the bigger picture, it's not all about just the technical aspects. It's just about how do we take this team forward for the game on Sunday? And if Joe or Sally's going to play in goal, how can we create the best environment to make her enjoy it, him enjoy it, and feel part of what we're trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, again, Andrew, obviously you're at the rec level, and guys, I apologize. We will end this. I'm just finding this conversation fascinating.
No problem.
Is that I've started to get to when I'm talking to anybody, whether I've run some rec clinics for, some rec programs in the area before. And I've basically focused on, for these parent coaches, starting position and decision-making. Because the technique's going to be all over the place, and that really shouldn't be the concern. It's like, but if the goalkeepers, especially at this level, know where to stand, know how to go to a ball, when to come for a ball, when to drop, all those sorts of things, most likely they're going to be a little bit more successful, and they're going to feel better about themselves, and they're going to want to keep playing the position, whether they, had their hands proper curve shape or anything like that. Would you agree, Andrew?
Yeah, I think you need to give them some tools. And I think when we were chatting to Mike and to Wes, obviously Wes is much more connected to the youth game, but talking to Mike, who's worked with players a bit more experienced, but obviously he's working with the highest level goalkeepers now on the pro side. We talked a little bit like, what would, if I was like, you're going to give your goalkeeper one thing, what would it be? And I have no clue what he's going to say. I think it was shot stopping, right? Just the ability to stop the shots. Yeah. Like, it's a very simple answer. And maybe I could have figured it out on my own. But yeah, I think
you're too busy sweeping.
Yeah, exactly. Just there, just sweeping away. But no, I think just for me, it's giving them the confidence to go in, whether they're playing. You got kids that are defeated before they even go in to play. I can't do it. I can't. You can. And I think the one thing for me, whenever I have a player go in goal, it's like kryptonite. They can be the best outfield player. All of a sudden, you give them the superpower to use their hands now, in addition to all of the bits and pieces that they're good at already. And all of a sudden, you've told them you can do something extra now. And all of a sudden, it's, oh, no, I can't. Like, it's the opposite. This should sort of empower them. Like, you're unbelievable with your feet. I'm just telling you now, guess what? You're the only player on the field that can pick up the ball in this part of the field. So that's sort of my take on it. But yeah, just simple tools. Don't overcomplicate it. Positioning, shot stopping, keep the ball out the ball with your face, whatever you need to do. Job's a good one.
I think that's a great way to wrap this up right here. Is just keep the ball out of the net by using the face. I think that's the way. That goalkeeping right there, 101, right? In a nutshell.
That was my job as sweeper.
Just using your face because you can't use your hands. So what's up? What's on the horizon for you all right there at North Carolina? Do you all have any more programs lined up?
It's a great question.
I mean, this was the time for me to let you guys plug, but
yeah. Wes is having a baby, so then that's the big thing. Yeah,
okay, that's the big. Congratulations on that, everybody.
Yeah.
My gosh.
amazing wife has done well, and she's due April 7th, and so it's any time now. So we've got a little girl coming, a future Courage star. We're hoping. So as soon as she comes out, there'll be a pair of gloves ready.
There we go. Remember, she'll grow as big as her environment. So
exactly. So
yeah,
giant crib. Giant.
Yep.
Exactly.
Me and my
Massive,
wife. Me and my
massive
wife.
crib.
Yeah, my wife was also a goalkeeper. So if we don't make a goalkeeper, something was wrong.
She's the keeper.
Wow, really
So,
unbelievable.
Yep. So,
No,
but
Michael,
anyway.
we've got some teams going off to Europe the next couple of days. So I think really exciting for them to go and experience. I think Italy, Spain, Scotland, England.
Yep.
Anyone I've missed there? There's just some fantastic opportunities for kids.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
And then I think in the summer we've got some groups going to the World Cup for the women's game.
Australia,
So those are exciting player experiences. I think for us, we're just going to continue to do the best we can to provide resources. I've got a Youth to Pro next week where we'll talk to two of the Courage players and head coach Sean Nahas. So just trying to continually connect the grassroots side and everything in between with the pros and inspire and engage and hopefully continue to build their love for the game.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And obviously, guys, if you want to reach out to them, there's a little website, I'm sure. It's a pretty big club. I think you guys can find. But where's the direct ways if Andrew, if anybody wants to know more about what you do with the youth program, or Wezly over you with the competitive program?
Wes, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open doors, open book. I'm obviously all over our website as far as email. I think my number should be on there as well. Instagram, social media stuff. I'm very interactive on those platforms as well. So any platform that you enjoy or feel like reaching out on, I'm happy to respond.
Well, I mean, you could use your union handle, which is up there. Right there. See how how I reel it in like that.
I love it. Everything through the union.
No, we'll have to talk about creating a private North Carolina community on the Union app, guys. If you guys are unfamiliar, we're starting private communities on the Union Sports platform in the Union Goalkeeping Community app right now. So if you've got a club or organization and you want to have some content it's a little bit more of a safe space where people feel a little bit more comfortable sharing and engaging with each other, you got all the same capabilities as on the regular platform, but it's just for your community. You can do that. Just reach out to us, DM us at Goalkeeper Podcast, or contact at Old Goalkeeper Podcast for a guest topic or a topic suggestion on the Union app. I just said that wrong. For guest or topic suggestion. I clearly need to have lunch before I go play today. That's what's going on. Guys, if you want to reach out to me directly at Michael Magid on the Union, anything comedy related, michaelmagidcomedy.com.
Oh, I think that.